Good afternoon, runners. Welcome to the 2021 TCS New York City Marathon Week. I'm excited. We are here with our partners at HSS, Cathy Wysin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me today.
We're going to talk injury prevention race week. So if you have any questions about race logistics, course strategy, we'll be live for that around 6 p.m. Eastern time. Today we're going to talk injury prevention leading up to the race. Hopefully there's not many big injuries out there, Cathy, because right now is the time we don't want injuries, but things do creep up when we get to those questions. But Cathy, thank you so much for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
So you're at HSS. Kind of what are things you just deal with day to day with runners? How do you assess runners this close to race?
Yeah, I think a lot of things we may be seeing still some little like overuse injuries, maybe people not tapering as much as they should have been. You really shouldn't be putting on many miles this week at all. Shouldn't have really done much of a long run at all, but maybe a little bit of walking, a little cross training. May still be seeing a little bit of aches and pains, but I think in general it's okay to be a little bit sore at this time because you're coming off, easily 4 to 5 months of training. But shouldn't be anything that's really impacting your ability to walk, move, get up and down stairs, do day-to-day activities.
That's great. Yeah, so guys, if you have any injury-related questions, please put those in the comments. We are going to take those one by one. And of course, we love knowing where you're watching from. So if you're watching from Manhattan or you're watching from California or across the country, let us know where you're watching from. We're going to give you a shout out too. But first, you mentioned taper period. So that's what we're in. We're at the very end of taper period for those runners, 3 days out from the race. There's a thing that coaches call phantom pains. Now, we think we're injured, but we're not because we've been tapering for a while. Can you kind of talk about what that is for those who aren't aware of it and how it differs from maybe a more serious real injury?
Yeah, I think if I think about phantom pain, you're probably a little sore, a little achy, as you should be. You're probably maxing out, maybe weeks where you're doing 30, 40, maybe more miles than that a week. So you should naturally be a little sore. You should naturally be a little bit fatigued after this 4 or 5 months of training. But it shouldn't be pain that's impacting how you're walking and how you're moving. So I always say if it's that sharp, stabbing, acute pain, you can't put weight through the leg, you're limping not only with running, but maybe you're limping with walking. I think the big thing is you can't get up and down the stairs. You're kind of doing the one step at a time. You can't get out of the chair. That's pain that's probably a little bit more serious. And running, I always say running's not going to make that better. Yeah. That's the kind of pain you don't want to run through. But if you're just kind of sore and achy, legs are feeling tired, I think maybe feeling a little sluggish, that's okay, but it should never alter your running form, or you should never be limping with that type of pain. And I think that's the big key distinction.
I think that brings up an interesting conversation about if runners are experiencing that sharp pain, they try to go down a step, they're feeling it in the Achilles, the calf, the quad, you name it. What should we do now? We're 3 days out.
Yeah, it's it's a tough question. I mean, hopefully you're not feeling that. If you are, maybe try to get in and see somebody, see your doc, see your PT. I don't want to say maybe you're not running, but you may want to have somebody to take a look at it to make sure it isn't something serious before you go out and tackle 26 miles. Because if it's having pain with a couple steps, 26 miles isn't going to make it any better. And you don't want to make something that's potentially minor turn into something that's bigger. So if you are having any of those pains, you got a couple days, I would try to maybe get it looked at right now. Yeah,
let's go back to once again the lesser of the two evils here. We're having maybe a past injury that my calf's been tight, or my Achilles. I've noticed it sometimes, but not a lot. Are there things I can do these next 3 days to get myself at 100% as close as possible? Yeah. What are those steps I should take?
I probably wouldn't run right now. I'd probably really scale it back. If you were thinking about doing a little shakeout run or something, I'd maybe just cut it out, rest, get the time off your feet. If you're feeling a little sore, maybe a little icing. If you're someone who's foam rolled, maybe a little bit of foam rolling, a little gentle stretching. Go for a walk, get on your bike, maybe something that's still helps with your aerobic endurance but isn't impact. And I think if there's one thing I could really say, you've done your training. Any kind of miles this week isn't going to help you at this point. Training's under your belt, but I'd probably scale back if you're feeling a little bit sore.
It doesn't hurt to scale back. I think we always said it's better to be 10 miles undertrained than 1 mile overtrained. I think it's that goes into every type of runner out there, first time newbie out there versus someone who's done 50 of these. It's important to be undertrained a little bit.
And I think it's better to get to the start line healthy and actually get there and not be trained than not be able to get there at all.
That's usually what I tell runners, like a goal, like your number one goal, get there healthy. I think we're going to feel like that's a boring goal sometimes. No. My goal is break this time, but no, get there healthy is your A goal for every single, even from the lead out there. If you can't get started healthy, what's the point be there? You know? So get there healthy. Guys, runners, as I said, if you have any questions for Cathy here, please put those in the chats. This is your opportunity to ask any of those questions to someone who knows the industry and knows the body really, really well. So put those in the chat. I want to kind of talk more about what we can do this time leading up to the race. Foam rolling, cross training, anything else we can do to become a little more healthier. Sleep, what are those key things we should do?
Sleep is such a huge thing. So you're not going to sleep the night before race day. If you do, that's amazing, but you're not going to. I mean, adrenaline's going to be high, nerves are going to be high. It's okay to be nervous, okay to be anxious, but probably not going to get a lot of sleep the night before. So it's going to be key to get some sleep now, trying to get a good 8 hours of rest. Hydrating, lots of fluids. So you're not just hydrating during the race, you're hydrating leading up to the race. I always say kind of cut the caffeine out, cut the alcohol out, save that for after, because those things are going to dehydrate you. And I mean, I'm not going to run the rest of the week, but I'm going to hop on my bike, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to keep myself moving, but I'm going to respect the training. And take it easy.
The train is done. We got some great shout outs from you guys all around the country. Let's see where you're writing in from. We have coming in Emil from Los Angeles, California. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, and then we also have some questions. Let's see what you guys are on your minds. This is why we're here from Snow NYC. I'm glad no snow today, by the way. Got an injury on the 18-mile tune-up in Central Park. Doctor said it's a bunker cyst, Baker cyst. Is that I never heard of Baker cyst, but would be okay to run. Will I find help on the course if needed? So maybe talk about what a Baker cyst is and how this runner can help us.
Yeah, so Baker cyst can be a little bit of a cyst or accumulation of fluid in the back of the knee, can be painful at times for people, may have painful range of motion, but I think the key is your doctor has given you the okay to run. There's typically not any real limitations, but again, I think the doctor key card, giving the okay to run. You may find that you're walking a little bit more. You may fatigue. The knee might get a little bit sore as you go on. But I would say if you're starting to cramp, feeling sore, get off to the side and walk. There's nothing wrong with walking. If you need to take it easy, I'm sure there's medical tents along the course.
Every mile.
I think the key is you've got the green light to run, but have realistic expectations. You know that it's there. It might limit you a little bit later on. It may not. But I think it's okay to walk and take it easy. You've got the green light to go, so I think that's the key. Yeah,
and the other part, there are medical tents every mile between mile 3 and mile 25. So not there is on a bridge example, and then mile 25, 26, there's no medical tents there. But throughout that, every mile you'll see signs up ahead. And just because you do need to go to the medical tents does not mean you're out of the race. You can pull over to the medical tent for a bag of ice, for some salt, for some kind of wrap for something, to take a look at something, and then you continue running. So keep that in mind for any runner out there, or specifically this question. Those tents are there for you along the course. Next question, we got Eric saying, bad IT band problems. Got cortisone shot last Monday. Any experience or advice for Eric here?
Oh, the IT band is the worst. I've dealt with it personally a lot. Your IT band is a band of tissue down the side of your thigh. It gets overworked. It's overused pretty frequently in a lot of people because maybe there's some weaknesses or some decreased flexibility elsewhere. I think you hear the old runner's knee, the IT band knee. It's painful to bend the knee, painful to move. Hopefully the cortisone shot's given you a little bit of help. Typically things like foam rolling and some hip strengthening can help to take a little bit of strain off the IT band. If you haven't foam rolled before, I probably wouldn't jump into it right now. Right? It's the old saying, nothing new on race day. But I think a little bit of ice to the area could help. Maybe a little bit of strengthening to the hip. Some clamshells, some bridging, side-lying leg lifts. I mean, those are all pretty basic glute exercises that would help. And I think I may tie it back to the question before. I think realistic expectations. If you're dealing with something and it's okay and you've got the green light from your doctor to run, that's great, but pace might be a little bit slower. There may be a little bit of walking, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And I always say walk before you need it too. So if you're looking for change up a race strategy beforehand, a lot of what runners do, they'll run until they can't run anymore, and then that walking becomes a lot harder. So it's like run, walk. Even at mile 5, you find I'm feeling good, you can walk a mile 5, and then a lot of people walk to the water stations, which is a good idea.
That's one of the things I do.
Yeah, it's also just amazing. A good motivation.
Yeah.
You get to the water station. Once again, even if you don't feel like you need to walk, but you are questioning this nagging injury that you've had, you can walk early on than you need to, and it's going to kind of keep you going a little bit longer throughout the race. Next we have Stacy saying, how close to the race is it okay for massage? 2 days before? Talk about those, massages, which are big lead up to the race day.
Yeah, big leading up to the race day. I mean, hands-on is going to be helpful if you're tight anywhere. But again, I caution. It's the trend right now we're seeing.
If you haven't got a massage before a long run, should you do it for a race? I always say.
Right. Yeah. So I think you bring up such a great point because that's what I was thinking. I know, right? You should really kind of be emulating things you did before a long run. So if you did your 18, 20-mile run and you didn't do a massage before that, probably shouldn't factor it in before a race day. Save the massage for after. You've got the training, essentially. So I probably wouldn't go adding new things in because one, you don't know how you're going to feel after the massage. Are you going to be really sore 2 days after? And if you get a massage 2 days before and you've never gotten one, and then you're sore after that, now you're up to race day. So I would probably veer on the side of holding and maybe thinking about getting a massage after.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I always say if nothing new on race week, if you haven't ate it, drank it, smelled it, touched it, felt it, thought about it, don't do it.
Yep.
Don't do it. Save it for a celebration. Stephanie writes in, it's my first marathon, congrats. What quantities of hydration, water and electrolytes, do you recommend for the 3 days from now until Sunday? So maybe it's a nutrition hydration question. Let's start with that.
Yeah, so a little bit of nutrition, hydration, so not 100% in my realm, but I think there's a couple key things I would do. If you haven't eaten it, don't eat it now.
Eat it, smell it, drink it, eat it, thought about it. Yeah.
Stay away from it. I'd probably stay away from alcohol. Save that for after when you celebrate. Caffeine, those things can dehydrate you, and you're going to, a fair amount of fluid loss in the surgery. Even though it's going to be a little bit cooler, you're still going to be sweating. You're still going to need to replenish those fluids. So those things are naturally going to dehydrate you. I'd probably stick with what you're normally eating. You don't have to go crazy on carb loading. Night before, eat a good dinner. But I would be trying to drink lots of water, lots of fluids. Some people like, Gatorade, anything to kind of keep you hydrated leading up for and staying away from the alcohol and the caffeine.
And similar, I think the question she's really looking for, which there is no, it depends. It's each person's what they drink is different. You probably drink maybe more than I do, but both drink the appropriate amount because of just our body anatomy. Right. So there is no number anyone can give you. Maybe your own personal nutritionist would maybe give you that number, but we can't give you that number. So make sure you just hydrate. I always keep a water bottle, throughout the day with me during race week, and always be drinking. Yeah. Next we have Patrick is asking a question. Torn meniscus in my left knee 3 weeks ago. Beyond more pain, what should I do? Well, what do I do about risking running?
Oof. I mean, torn meniscus, I'd probably be checking with my doctor if it's okay to run. Your meniscus is giving some cushioning to the joint, and if you think about every time your foot hits the ground, it's a lot of load and a lot of force through that joint. So if you've got a torn meniscus, I can't really see how running's probably going to help that. Running might make it worse, but I think you might want to, check in with your doctor because there's, I think, a couple factors that can go into it. What's the severity of the tear? What's your pain level look like? I think if you've got a torn meniscus and you're having pain walking, it's not going to feel better running. So I think that's probably something you probably have to consult with the doctor about. I think probably what the severity of the tear is. Chances are running's not going to make it better.
Is that something that, right now you see the telehealth thing kind of happen a lot more. Is that something that we could do, that this Patrick could do a telehealth visit, or is that an in-person visit? I'm thinking more time-wise, only 3 days.
Time-wise, you might be able to meet with the doctor and kind of talk through what you're feeling. They can probably take a look at how you're moving, a look at what your motion is like, actually take a look at the knee. You obviously won't get any imaging to know, objectively what's going on in the knee joint, but you might be able to do something virtual to, you're at least getting that educational piece from the doctor and getting that skilled set of eyes on you. And I think that's probably important
good luck,
with
Patrick.
something like this. Yeah, good luck.
Good luck. Next up we have Chris. Good news, I don't have a stress fracture. Bad news, tendonitis in my ankle. Doctor says okay to run. Any experience with this and how end of the race might feel? Oof, I have no experience in that, but I'm sure you have. At least not in personal, but maybe.
So I think first thumbs up, you got the okay to run. So, I think it's great you checked with your doctor, you got the green light because that's the big
number one right there,
and stress fractures really do sideline you for a good amount.
I had one of those.
Haven't had one, knock on wood. Tendonitis is hard because I think a lot of us get some sort of tendonitis with all the running we do. Tendonitis is really, an inflammation, irritation, sometimes doing a little bit too much too soon, but definitely the much lesser of the two evals. So that's great. You've got the green light. I think probably as you do more in those later miles, it might flare up a little bit. Tendonitis is, like I said, it's an overuse. So, you might be okay early on. Tendonitis in the ankle, I could see it maybe flaring up on the bridges. Queensboro Bridge and I are not friends. But you might find that later on the race, it's a little bit irritated. I think with the hills, especially if we think about Queensboro Bridge, some of those rolling hills on First Ave into the Bronx, it is going to be a little bit more on the calf, on the Achilles.
Maybe walk the hills.
You might walk the hills. Maybe you stop for some ice. Maybe you do a little gentle stretching. Get off to the side, a little stretching of the calf.
The ice along the course on the medical tent might help.
Might help a little bit, kind of like in the short term. But walking the hills actually is pretty good idea. But I think you'll probably be okay to start.
Hills, so.
I think you actually might be okay in the start of the race. It's a little bit flatter, but you might be a little achy, a little sore. So maybe a little bit of walking, walk the hills.
Maybe adjusting your race strategy from what it was, 4 weeks ago and now. So you can finish though. Good luck out there.
Absolutely.
Next we have Jennifer saying top of left foot burning, inside of right ankle sore. I plan on putting a over-the-counter pain patch on the top of the foot and ankle. Thoughts?
Not sure about the over-the-counter pain patch, because I kind of think it maybe depends on where the pain is coming from.
So just because you're feeling it somewhere doesn't mean it's starting there?
Yeah, ankle could be sore for a variety of reasons. Foot could be sore for a variety of reasons. Burning can sometimes be nerve pain, but that doesn't mean that that's what it is. It could be how you're moving, could be shoes. The feet and the ankles are tough because there's really a wide range of things that could be going on there. I would, if you've got some soreness there, if you're looking for something over the counter, maybe chat with the pharmacist, see if they have anything they could recommend. We mentioned kind of the telehealth for checking, and maybe there is someone that you can check in with about anything over the counter they'd recommend. I think if the pain is affecting how you're running and moving, though, that's kind of what we've been talking about, maybe, scaling back a little bit. Feet are hard.
Feet are hard. So maybe go out for a little shakeout run the next day or two, see how you're feeling, check with the pharmacist, and last call, maybe check with the doctor as well.
Yeah, maybe see what they would prescribe for the patch. Maybe if they recommend something, maybe you test it out and go for a little bit of a run.
On Friday or something like that, do a 2-mile shakeout, just see how it feels on you. Nothing doing race day, so test that out beforehand. Mandy writes in, Piriformis, hip pain, lower back pain. A lot of stuff going on there.
I know, there's a lot.
Is it better to wear compression leggings to run? So kind of with all that, what's the best course of action?
Piriformis, hip pain, low back pain, it can be a lot of stuff going on.
Sounds like
there's a lot going on.
Especially with the back involved there.
Yeah, I don't know if compression would really help there because it doesn't sound like there's anything going on down the legs. Compression sock, compression leggings, we're probably thinking more swelling. So I don't know how much benefit you'd get there. I am going to revert back to, if you haven't been running in compression leggings, no idea how you're going to feel for 26 miles. Piriformis hip pain could be weakness, could be tightness. Low back pain could be tied into a little bit how you're moving, so there could be a lot of things that are going on there. If you're maybe feeling tight to the area, if you foam rolled before, you could try a little foam rolling to the area, but definitely don't test it out if you haven't. You could also try a little bit of heat to the area to kind of help relax the area, but
heat, not cold for this?
I'd maybe go a little bit heat.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think same thing with clothing. If you haven't run in that, don't test it out.
It seems like compression is something you want to test out for a long run, not just, this is something like for not just a 2-mile run, you might notice something different.
Yeah, so not sure how much help you'll get from the compressions, but I probably wouldn't use race day to test them out.
Yeah. Good question though. Hopefully you can get
great,
out there feeling strong at the start line. Michael says, pain in my shin. I've never had shin splints before. Anything to potentially help? KT type, compression socks?
Oh gosh, you guys have a lot of stuff going on before I know. Shin splints, could be some shin splints.
Anything else it could be? Because he said never had them, he's been trained a lot obviously too.
So it could be a little bit of shin splints, some little medial tibial stress syndrome. It could be a lot of things. Shin splints are typically one of those overuse injuries, that kind of repetitive pounding in the ground. If you think about all the miles you're putting on, this could kind of fall into that overuse injury realm. Could also be footwear. It's a little late to probably be getting new shoes and change it up, but one of the things that I think is always important to remember is a lot of these overuse injuries down in the shin, down in the feet. If your shoes are old, I think it's recommended about 300 to 500 miles you switch them out. You're not getting the support or the cushioning of the shoe, so that's kind of setting you up for some of this stuff lower on down the leg. Probably too soon for that. I run in a couple pair of shoes, so I don't know if you have multiple shoes that you run in. If you've got shoes that maybe you've used a little bit less, maybe switch to those.
For Sunday,
start tracking your mileage maybe.
And this could also be another run walk on the assuming race day.
Yeah.
Hills also, I think that might help.
Hills might hills might flare things up a little bit. I think this is another one of the things where you'll probably be good early on in the race. Could try to get a little ice on there. KT tape may not help so much because it sounds like it's a little bit of overuse, maybe some footwear involvement, but I think maybe a little bit of run walking.
Yeah.
And I would probably, get this looked at.
Yeah. As soon as possible, Michael.
As soon as possible.
Yeah. Good question, though. Good luck out there.
Yeah, good luck.
Stacy asks, will there be anyone to apply KT tape at the expo? Stacy, I'm not sure this year if there will be someone to apply KT tape. We'll try to get back to you, but check there is a on the app, if you download it, there is actually a link to the expo site that might have some more information, but I'm not quite. It does have the vendors. I know there are some vendors that might be selling it, but as far as applying it, just because of safety practices here, I'm not sure. Good question, though. Coming next, we got Vicky. Suggestions on handling runner's knee at this point. When a PT says runner's knee, it's not a fun injury.
No, runner's knee is awful.
Yeah, it's a injury that runners call their own injury.
We describe it.
It's not runner's shin splints. It's just shin splints.
Runner's knee. It's all about us. Runner's knee is one of those. I think every runner gets it. It's at some point. It's a combination of sort of muscle imbalances, weakness, certain areas, decreased flexibility. Overtraining is a big thing with runner's knee, and I think someone else who mentioned the IT band syndrome. So it's one of those really big things that you have to deal with, and it can start to flare up, especially at the end of training. Take it easy. Don't try to go out and run through this at this point. If you're familiar with foam rolling and have been foam rolling in the past, you could try foam rolling, those thighs, foam rolling the outside of your thigh, your IT band. A little bit of gentle stretching to the quads, the hamstrings, and a little bit of glute strengthening. So on your side, doing clamshell, side-lying leg lifts. Any kind of hip, glute strengthening is going to take, it's going to take some tension off things like the IT band. It's going to help with alignment and running mechanics. Little late leading up now, so not sure how much some of this stuff will actually help 3 days out, but I think a lot of these things for anyone in general who's experiencing runner's knee are really great to incorporate just not when you're injured, but in general.
I love that, guys. If you have any more questions for Cathy, whether it's injury related, put those in the comments. We're going to come back to those in a few minutes, but we definitely want to hear from you. Also, where you're watching from. I know we had one person in Los Angeles. I know there's more of you guys out there. Let us know where you're watching from. I want to see who's the farthest away from me right now. So we're in Midtown Manhattan. We have Los Angeles, about 3,000 miles away. Where else are you watching from? Cathy, I want to talk about, we're 3 days away, so race morning. We're looking at about 45 degrees for just in the start village, about 50 degrees or 55 degrees during the run. How do we warm up beforehand with the space provided? What do you recommend on race morning for warm-ups?
Well, bring warm clothing. Dress a layer. So I actually have you can't bring anything to check at the start, but I have my little pre-race bag.
Ooh.
I wear my old poncho.
Yep.
I have my old heat shoes. I actually, when we did the Facebook chat last week, I was like, I actually set up a little picnic area. So I do. I bring throwaway clothes, warm clothes that I can toss.
A sandwich, a lemonade.
I actually do pack food, and I bring some magazines.
Because you're there for a while.
It's like experienced New York City marathoner. So I bring a lot of throwaway clothes, things that I can sit on to actually really stay warm. Because I always say it's better to get there early than be racing to get to the start line. So I usually get there about 3 hours before I start.
She's there at the startup crew. You're there.
I do.
Well, set up.
I'm like, let me help you put everything up. But I'm relaxed. I'm there. I find an area. I hang out. And I take it easy. I would say usually, maybe around 45 minutes before your wave goes off, I would get up, start moving around a little bit. If you haven't done any sort of dynamic warm-up like skipping, high knees, lunges, Don't try anything new. Just get up and do some light jogging. You know, there's going to be plenty of areas in the start village to get moving. Get up, light jogging, you know, a couple minutes, jog to the bathroom, get to the bathroom, maybe a light jog to the start. Just kind of get your body moving because it is going to be chilly. And even if you do have warm clothes, you're still going to be chilly at the start. But I'd say about 45 minutes, you know, get yourself up and just get moving, even if it's just jogging around, doing little loops around where you're kind of set up. That would be a good thing just to get the blood flowing.
That's great. Also, you mentioned enough room because this year this is same size start village as we have always had, but obviously this year we're taking down the capacity of the run, so 50,000 versus 35 this year. You will have space out there at start village. And good news for those bathroom lines, they should be shorter because bathrooms have not changed. There's still enough bathrooms as years pass. So hopefully with the less people and the same amount of bathrooms as previous years, the lines will be less crowded this year, so you'll be able to hopefully not wait in line for many hours, but get there early, of course. Let's talk about during the race, I'm sorry. There are a few questions that talked about this, but I want to kind of talk a little bit more. If a runner, is running and they feel some maybe not as far as an injury, but discomfort while the race, they're at mile 16 on First Avenue, what is the best course of action out there? What's the first step they should do? And that doesn't work, what's the second step? How do we adjust out there?
Yeah, 16, 18 miles is usually when people start to feel it a little bit. We hear about the notorious wall. You kind of start to fatigue, you get a little sore. So if you're starting to feel really sore and achy, slow down to a walk, kind of off to the side, maybe a brisk walk, but just maybe slow down the pace a little bit. Kind of give yourself a body to recover a little bit. If you're having any sharp, severe stabbing pain, hear a pop, anything that you're coming to now a complete halt. You're limping, you're hobbling, you can't put weight on the leg. That is an automatic getting off the course and getting to the medical tent and getting some help. But I think you're probably going to start to feel a little achy around that, mile 16, mile 18. The second half of the course is notoriously a little bit harder than the first. So you're probably going to feel the legs a little bit more. I utilize the walking at the aid stations. I think that's a great way to kind of regroup, mentally regroup, try to keep the legs feeling a little bit fresher. But I think as long as it's pain that's not altering how you're running or you're limping, that's not really any red flag to worry about. But, I'd probably say start by moving over to the side and just kind of slowing down to a walk, kind of trying to get your legs back a little bit, taking it easy.
Oh, I love that so much. Come Sunday, we finished our 26.2 miles. We toured New York City. We had gels for brunch that day. Recovery is important. I call it mile 27 for the runners out there.
It is.
What is our steps to recover properly after the full tour?
Keep moving.
Don't do what we're doing?
Don't sit down. You are going to be so tempted to sit down on the curb as soon as you cross the finish line. And I see so many people do it and then they can't get up.
Yeah.
And I can't help them get up because I can't get down to get them up.
It's like pulling a statue up.
You're going to want to sit. You're going to want to get off your feet. You've just done 26 miles, but it is the 27th mile to actually get through the finish line, get your poncho, get out to meet family and friends. So really try to keep moving as much as you do want to sit down. You're going to get your finish line bag. You're going to have probably Gatorade and some snacks in there. Start refueling right away. Gatorade, whatever's in there. Getting some nutrition in you and really just keep moving. Whenever you get back to where you're going, have a good post-race meal. It's okay to have that post-race drink because you've held it off for the whole week, but lots of fluids because you are going to be dehydrated and you're going to want to try to keep moving as much as you can. Yeah,
and you are going to get that great bag from HSS at the finish line, so start taking that in as soon as you can. I do find difficult to always start eating right after the race, but there's some Gatorade and waters in there that are obviously very important, and then eat when you can. A few questions and a few shout-outs. Let's see what we got coming in here. Shout-outs, we have Chris from Portland, Oregon. Thank you so much for watching today. We have Jennifer from St. Michael's, Maryland. We also have Vincent, hello from Mexico. There might be our farthest so far. Thanks for joining. And we have David. Those are some sweet-looking jackets. Thanks, David. Great New Balance gear this time at the Expo, so pick up some New Balance gear while you're at the Expo. We have some great questions coming up next. Billy says, in October, I ran 13.1 miles on Strava. Finished in 2 hours, but I'm trying to run 1 hour and 30 minutes. Do you have any tips for helping my legs keep going? So it looks like, for half marathons, any kind of time goal you're looking for, you probably want to just kind of up it a little more. So look at what you were doing before, your training plan before, add some speed works in there. So maybe you were doing either no speed work and just kind of doing volume, which is great, but add maybe 1 day of speed work into your training. So that could be on a Tuesday, you're doing 800-meter repeats, mile repeats, some ladder workouts, which work as well. If you did 1 day of speed work, add 2 days. So Tuesday is your interval day, and Thursday is going to be maybe a tempo workout day or fartleks, where you may be doing tempo runs for 30, 45 minutes, a little bit faster than your regular run out there, kind of holding that pace, during a shorter time period, and you extend that 30 minutes to 35 minutes and 40 minutes throughout your training. And then so you have 3 hard days a week. So Tuesday's a hard day, Thursday's a hard day, and Saturday or Sunday or whatever your long run is a hard day. And focus on recovery. Maybe once again start your base miles a little bit higher than they were before. So before your training plan starts, maybe you're starting at 10-mile base period. You're going to add 15 miles to your base before you actually start your plan. That can help you as well, because then you're hitting higher mileage in your training plan. But it's all going to start figure out where you started from before and amending that to race day. But good luck out there. Good goals. Mm-hmm. We have another question. Barry, from a middle of the pack runner with the weather predicted, do you recommend wearing long sleeve shirt under a short sleeve shirt and shorts on bottom? I think this is a really good question for Barry, for any runner out there come Sunday, about what to wear. I think if you ask 5,000 runners, you're going to get 5,000 different answers, but it's going to be average. 54 degrees is usually, this is actually common weather for the TCS New York City Marathon. And look at photos from years past. You do see a lot of t-shirt and shorts, singlets, capri pants, something like that. I think, as you said, Start Village, you see more, obviously, sweatshirts.
Yeah. I'm a fan of, I don't go in the long sleeves because I get very warm once I start moving, but I usually go race singlet and arm warmers. Arm warmers I can kind of slide down. I can tie, I had like my arm warmers when I was in London, like tied around everything. So I don't like to go with a lot of layers because there's things that I usually don't want to toss along the course, but I do singlet or short sleeves, arm warmers that I can pull down. I typically like to run in tights because it's just a little bit more comfortable for me.
Yeah, it's going to depend.
But everybody's going to be so different.
Yeah. Warm at Start Village, important, because then you're going to be warmer on the course. Gloves, I also find things that you can put back on, because I find, going to Brooklyn, you might be warm, but then you get back on the Queensboro Bridge, it's shady, you're under the bridge, it's cold. You might want your gloves back on for that part of the course.
And I know as a female, like I like to run in tights because I have tights that have pockets. So I can shove stuff I need in there. I don't really like to run with a fanny pack. Some people do. I like as little as possible, but things like gloves, I usually have a headband at the start. That stuff I can easily take off, kind of shove in my pockets, and then if I need it a little bit later on, I can easily put that stuff back on.
She's a pro, guys. We have one last question coming in here. We have Brian asking, sharp hip pain once I got to 40 miles per week. Stretching and foam rolling didn't really provide relief. Got an x-ray through HSS, negative for fractures. Only relief comes from 5 days rest. So not really a question, but what do you think is kind of going on? They got an x-ray, which is really good. They're kind of talking to HSS. Any game plan for this weekend if the run-in looks like?
I mean, x-rays are negative. That's the biggest thing. So we're not worried about, anything acute, any type of fracture, anything structural going on. So I think that's the biggest thing. Not sure if it's maybe something soft tissue related, which an x-ray isn't going to pick up. That's just the one big key thing there. Rest helps, which thinks it may be muscular, maybe soft tissue related. You were eclipsing about 40 miles a week. That's a lot. It could be form. Like I said, it could be a wide range of things. I'd be curious what the doctor who maybe ordered the x-rays and, did the workup says, if they're fine with you running. If they give you the all clear, I think this may be another thing, a run walk. And to put a huge shout out, it's okay to walk. I will be walking after already doing another race this fall, so it's okay. But I think realistic expectations. But I'd be curious what your doctor said if they've given you the green light. And I think if they did, then maybe you are run walking.
This runner, they did x-rays through HSS. Now, you said form. It could be form. After the race, you can go to also HSS, do a form gait analysis for this run, or anyone.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of the stuff that's going on, it might be some overuse. If you were cranking up the miles a little bit too soon, it may be form. I think we talked about the shin splints. It could be footwear. Maybe getting in and doing a running analysis. If you're not sure what kind of shoes to wear, after the race would be a great time to get into your running store. Like Jackrabbit here in New York City, try some shoes on, find out what kind of foot type you have. Get some new shoes if you can't remember the last time you got new sneakers. So not a ton with that stuff you can do now, but I think a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is not only great if you are injured, but I think great preventative things to be doing for the next race.
Love it. Great questions, guys. Thank you, Cathy, for joining us today.
Yeah,
It's
thanks
so
for
fun.
having me.
Hopefully, got answered all of your questions. We do have a course strategy coming up tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you cannot make that on Friday and Saturday, we'll have course strategies at 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So join us live for those talks. And guys, we can't wait to see you at the Expo and the finish line of the 2021 TCS New York City Marathon. Thank you so much.